Dialing in espresso is not easy, and if you're like me and you have multiple different coffees at any one time, you might forget what settings you use to dial in that nice sweet Brazilian decaf after you switch to your regular Colombian this morning. So when you guess at the right grinder settings, you mess it up and get a pretty awful espresso. By the time you've dialed the espresso back in, you've almost run out of those yummy coffee beans. Does that sound familiar? Well, now I've made this book called The Brew Ledger to help you dial in faster, avoid wasting your favorite coffee beans, and keep your grinder and espresso machine settings about your favorite coffees in a really traditional, manual way with pen and paper. I've been keeping a notebook a little like this for years, basically ever since I started making videos on my YouTube channel way back when I was living in Japan. If I picked up anything from 10 years living in Japan, it would be the Kaizen philosophy of constant improvement. The layout started as a few column lines drawn in a notebook each week, but adjusting to the machines I've owned and the new technology around espresso brewing, it has changed a lot over the years. When I decided I was going to turn it into the Brew Ledger, I added more context, switched to a minimalistic and clean layout, and turned it into a full A5 landscape page, so it'd be easier to keep track of individual beans and all your thoughts on tasting and settings for dialing in. This isn't like the SCA tasting sheets because it isn't about objectively grading a coffee based on taste. The Brew Ledger has spaces for grind size, dose, yield, time, and temperatures, so you can judge if your coffee is correctly extracted and use your notes to adjust next time and improve your extractions with every shot. And it's all bound in a beautiful hardback book that has a black faux leather cover, gold foil title, and a yellow ribbon to keep your current page. So here's the main layout. There are 104 pages like this in the book. At the top left, you can put all the info about the coffee beans you're using. It doesn't have to be everything. It's up to you how many of these fields you fill out. You may want to add comments and tasting notes later, so there's space for that too. In the top right, you can note down which machine, grinder, portafilter basket, and tools you're using. And then the dial-in sheet is on the bottom half. What I usually do is check this before I weigh out my beans, and then take a note of the grind setting and weight I'm using, as well as the temperature and whether I used a paper filter or a puck screen. Then, when I pull my shot, I take a note of the final yield and how long it took, and then give the espresso a taste. If the coffee has an unpleasant sourness to it, I'd mark it on the under-extracted side. And if it's harsh and bitter, I'd mark it on the over-extracted side. This lets me see really quickly next time I pull a shot if I need to grind finer or coarser, or perhaps adjust the temperature if I'm getting the right timings but the coffee still doesn't taste right. And it's that easy to integrate into your espresso workflow. A few people asked me if I was going to make a digital copy or an app, and after considering it, I decided that this book is how I wanted to create this experience. It feels more like opening a photo album with all your old memories in there rather than a spreadsheet like you might have at work. As any coffee lover will tell you, you still remember the exact taste of the best coffees you've ever had years later. And for those ones, I mark the corners of the book so it's easy to find my favorites later. The pages are printed on 120 GSM ivory colored paper to give it that traditional look, and it's fountain pen friendly as well. In between each group of pages, there are 12 color pages. Now, each of these color pages has a little writing about an important part of espresso brewing, like how to dial in, roast levels, and how to go about diagnosing what's wrong with your shots. Each of these pages also has photographs I took to help illustrate these ideas. So who should get this book? Anybody who makes coffee at home with a manual or semi-automatic espresso machine is very likely to love this and feel like it's a part of their espresso workflow that's been missing for years. I made it with people like me in mind, people who love getting their coffee just right and who look forward to their calm, slow morning coffee routine. It also makes a great gift because coffee people are notoriously hard to buy gifts for, and I'm sure they would be very happy to receive this too. So if you want to pick up a copy, check out the Kickstarter page to follow this project. There'll be an early bird price for the first 250 first edition copies, which I'm fairly confident I can ship to backers well in time for Christmas. There are only 500 first edition copies, and after they're all sold out, I'll need to do another print run, which takes a little time. So I plan to ship the second print run out to backers in the first quarter of 2025. I know that backing any Kickstarter is a bit of a risk, so I want to thank every single person who supports this project. It's my first physical product and there was a lot to learn, but I'm incredibly happy with the final product layout, photography, and the quality of the printing and binding from the company I used. For the first books, I'll be handling logistics and shipping globally, so shipping prices will all be based on the size of a single book, with cardboard bookbindings under 500 grams sent by Royal Mail from the UK. After the Kickstarter is over, the books will be fulfilled by companies I'm discussing this with in the UK, Europe, and North America. If you have any questions about the book, please check the FAQ or comment here, and I'll answer any questions and update the FAQ as more questions come in. Thank you so much to everyone who supported this project so far and helping to bring the Brew Ledger to life.